Welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward, the podcast that reveals how to plan, achieve, and enjoy the journey of creating epic results in your life, business, health, and relationships. Here's your host, best-selling author and motivational speaker, Xander Sprague.
Hello, epic people, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I'm your host, Xander Sprague, and today I am so honored to be joined by Naomi Reynolds. Naomi, tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, hello, Xander. As you said, Naomi Reynolds. I'm a veteran. I was in the Army during the Vietnam era. And right now I'm an author, a speaker, and if my manager has anything to do with it, I'll be a podcaster soon to talk to veterans. I'm a promoter, an event planner. Women veterans are going to Washington, D.C. to meet with Doug Collins, the Secretary of the Military Affairs, Secretary of Affairs. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. But I've also written a book, Battle Scars to Benefits.
Sure.
Lovely. And it's already out. And it talks a little bit about my life. And as you say, Xander, taking that first step in that journey. So you'll get to go on a journey with me from the time I went into the military back in the 70s until I left under circumstances of sexual assault. Then I had to leave because I was with child and I didn't want to give my child up. So I'm glad I didn't. I raised her. She's a beautiful woman. It's given me 2 great grandkids and a son-in-law. So, things work out. But along the way, I had some trials and tribulations, ended up a little bit homeless. I don't know if you can be a little bit homeless.
Well, I was going to say, I would say, I think homelessness might also be equated to being the pregnancy. You either are or you are. So.
That's right. You either are or you aren't. So after I raised my daughter and she went off to college, I finished my college degree at Abilene Christian University in criminal justice because I was working for the police department when I first got out. Thought I wanted to be a cop, and then I joined the fire department and became an arson investigator to investigate juvenile fire centers. So that was great. And after that, I went into the corporate world with Phenol Oil and Walmart and Starbucks. And I am the person that goes in, gets the land, builds the stores, hire the people, merchandise it, and open it up. Then off to the next one. So I enjoyed that as well. Right now, I'm just working on my getting my information out about my book, and we're planning a trip to Washington, D.C., hopefully as soon as the government opens back up. It was scheduled for the 7th of October, and I had received a letter saying that I was accepted as one of the few women that would come to Washington, D.C., so I'm really excited about that because I really need to have a long talk with Secretary Collins about a few things.
Absolutely. And by no means an expert, but I am certainly aware that our veterans, multiple challenges from physical to mental health to housing, employment, actually collecting the benefits that they were due.
That's a huge one. So, of course, when I talk about battle scars to benefits, it has to do with my fight and my journey with the VA. At one point, I was rated 100%, but they've changed the rules. So now I'm in a fight for my benefits, but, I'm keeping the faith. It'll all work out, I'm sure. But, so long we didn't know how to take the VA. Are they for us? Or are they against us? It's hard to tell sometimes,
Absolutely. So certainly a lot of different epic experiences, to say the least.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'd like to talk sometimes, because I have the opportunity to talk about what I call those epic unexpected, those things that happen that, like, how do I deal with this? And certainly your experience while active in the Army is disturbing.
I loved it. I loved the military. I went right out of high school. I remember we had an assembly one day, and here comes the recruiters. And I was a senior. And my dad was in the military. We're a generational family of military people, but I was the first of the girls to go. And it was different. You know, I had never spent a night away from home. You know how kids do now? They'll go spend my parents didn't go for that, staying overnight. So I enjoyed it. I went through training, got promoted right out of basic, and then went to Fort Knox, Kentucky, where I was an administrative person that worked with what they call the Allied Liaison Division. That's all the foreign officers that come over to go to the armor school. You know, everybody's up in a roar now about the guitar people coming over to train in the airplanes, but that's something we've always done.
Yeah, no, I by no means claim to have military. I did in my freshman year of college. I did Army ROTC, and it was last century. And no, but they were able to. It was sort of when there was still a little budget. I got to actually. I was in Southern California. Got to go visit like a factory where they're making missiles and stuff. I got to go out to the national in the Mojave Desert, the National Training Center, where they do like the full scale training. And they were absolutely talking about with our allies coming over to do full scale trainings.
They do
battle maneuvers with the U.S. Army. Whole divisions coming over to practice
and we're the ones.
Exactly.
We've got the best. We've got the best. So I enjoy there, but that was when I ran into what did you call it? My first
epic unexpected.
Epic unexpected. It was my first epic unexpected was after the sexual assault, and I found out I was with child. Now back in the day, all the women would either go to New York or Colorado and have an abortion, even though it was illegal. This was the 60s and the 70s, so it was definitely illegal. But that wasn't for me. I wanted my baby. I was under the impression I'd never have children due to some other things that had occurred, so I think she was a blessing. So she was the blessing, and I raised her. She went off to college. She's in a great profession now, and I went off to college myself while I was raising her. I got my degree in criminal justice. So, that was the first big epic situation.
That's right. And I've got to imagine having to leave the Army, something that I believe, it sounds like up to that point, we're actually enjoying your time of service. You had a purpose and stuff.
That was it. I was just thrilled. So I back then they didn't let you stay. Right. Now you can stay, of course. They've got the maternity uniforms and the whole works take care of you and your child gets benefits. So around 74, there was one of the service women in the Air Force sued the military because they wanted to make her leave. Yeah. And the court ruled that the Army should not have been discharging people between 1948 and 1975. So I've been in search of all of those women so that hopefully we could bring HR 6023 back to the floor. And that's the one that give us back our benefits that we didn't get when we were asked to leave. So, yeah, and it was kind of like, I had my therapist. I'm still in therapy. I think I'll always be in therapy. And I noticed you're a clinical psychologist or something.
I'm a professional clinical counselor. So, yes,
I like seeing that.
I also do mental health, so,
I saw that, and that excited me because that's the only thing that got me through. I think it was about 2014, I went into what they call the domiciliary. Yeah. That's when you go in, you stay for 90 days, and from head to toe, they take care of you and get you started on therapy. And that's when I was able to kind of turned the corner a bit. I had the best therapist in Dallas at that time. For 5 years, she was my therapist. Now the VA doesn't like for you to stay with a therapist that long. Their thing now is get in there, get better, get on out.
I could say, I certainly experienced that as a therapist, that a lot of times insurance says, well, you've got 12 sessions. Well,
yeah.
I can tell you that depending on what challenge brought you to therapy,
yeah,
sometimes, yes, in 12 sessions, I can talk to you and we can sort of get you to a point where you feel that you're doing okay. Something like the trauma that you endured, that's not something that gets fixed in 3 months.
No, because I always carried the thought of what could have been, and I know you're supposed to let all that go. But my first attention had to be to getting my daughter born and raised and make sure she was a happy person. But we now are trying to go back and get all of these women their restitution, I guess. I don't know if we'll have any luck at it. I doubt it, because right now the law says they have to go back and pay us from the date we left. That would be a lot of money. That's already, I'm sure, gone to another country by now. But
sure. But I guess my question is it restitution for, because it's hard to say how long you may have actually served. You may have had a 4-year term and you're like, all right, no, I'm not going to re-up. Or you could have had a 20 plus year career in the Army. So how is it, do you have any idea how
they're going to decide? That's been the problem. They've been kicking this down the road since 75 because they couldn't figure out how to do it. Now, one congresswoman came up and she said, just give everybody $25,000. And I was like, well, maybe some people just get 25, but So I think they got to recognize they've got to come to the table and just deal with it. Nobody's trying to become a millionaire, which is what they think. That's what the books, the magazines have said, that the Army will create millionaires because of this law, but it won't. I mean, we're not trying to become millionaires. If they just leave me alone, my rate of benefits right now, I'd be happy. But now they've taken that away. So I went from 100%, which how much that pays, all the way down to half of that, less than half of that over the past 3 months. And we're in appeal now with the board. So hopefully, I had to go see a therapist 2 weeks ago so they could determine whether or not to expand my PTSD resources. And I'm 75. I don't plan to go to work. I enjoy working with veterans, speaking to veterans and doing those kinds of things and steering them in the right direction and looking at legislation and claim. That's going to be my claim to fame, and that's my purpose now. That's my only purpose, is to make sure that those who come behind us don't have these same problems.
Absolutely. And certainly, I've seen, read stories, seen stories in video media and stuff of, the challenges that people have with the VA, trying to get benefits, trying to get services that it appears that they're entitled to, and somehow either bureaucracy or someone just says, "Oh no, sorry, I didn't put you in the right column, so now you don't get benefits." You're like, "But yes, I should."
Yeah. Well, they're starting to try to clarify it now. 100% doesn't mean that you'll be that way the rest of your life. You have to be prepared that they will reevaluate you and you may not stay there. Now, that makes it difficult because maybe you do need to work. If you can, maybe you still need to work. So all the rules are changing now. So we're trying to stay up on top of it and let people know. But I finally did go ahead and get an attorney. Everybody kept saying, you need to get an attorney. And I'm like, why? Mm-hmm. I didn't think I would have to fight the VA, but there's some things that will have to occur. And we want to be part of the solution to whatever that's going to be, And I think they're better off to deal with those of us who've gone through it and know some of the cracks that are in the program so far. But MST, military sexual trauma, is one they're still trying to deal with. They seem to think you can get over it, but again, each case is different, I meet a lot of women, and every one of them always say, I would go back in a heartbeat. So we all enjoy what it offered us. And like I said, I went to college on the GI Bill.
Sure.
And I bought a home on the VA bill. So there's some benefits still.
There are. And, perhaps the way, part of the work I do work with, sibling survivors, people who've lost a brother or sister. And, one of the things I always say is, I lost my sister 29 years ago, and I will never get over losing her. You will not get over your military sexual assault. You could be working your way through it, and some days better than others, but you're not going to get over it. Now look, you might get to a point where you find in your life a place that you can put it and it's there and you're okay. Yes, you can function.
You can function.
Go get a job. Like anyone, like if you initially have an injury or you're wounded or something, you might get to a point where yes, you're now able to hold a job because you've had operations, you recovered. That's always the case, but it is possible. The same way that if you break your leg, now you can't go to work, but your leg heals and now you can go back.
Yeah. Well, since about 2011, I've always worked from home. I worked for the Internal Revenue from home. I worked for different retail groups from home, customer service and the like. And I did try to go back to work a couple of years ago, but I can't do the people anymore. I can't be in a call center. I just can't do the people. I've been an isolationist. COVID was great for me. I was okay, Y'all want to go out? No, I'm okay. I can stay in. It doesn't bother me. But mental health, the VA just doesn't do a good job with it. And recently, some of the providers told us, they say they're cut off before they can really make any accomplishments with their patients. They're told they can only spend so much. So I haven't had an assigned therapist for quite a while. I've seen 5 in the last 2 years, 5 different ones. And for me, I'm like, it's like starting all over.
It really is. And I'll say to the audience, if you've never had therapy, first of all, let me just demystify it. It doesn't mean that anything's wrong. I am a firm believer that we all get stuck at some point and we need some help. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help. It's kind of like if you have a toothache, you go to the dentist, there's no a stigma about going to the dentist because you need to get your tooth fixed. Well, sometimes we have mental health issues. We have anxiety, we have depression, we have an experience that we need some help working our way through. And, but you're right. Therapy is a very intimate process.
Yes. I like that intimate process.
But it has to be. If I were your therapist, you're coming to me. I'm asking you to tell me some really hard things. I'm trying to help you process through that, have perspectives and stuff. It can't not be intimate. And you're right. When you have to start with a new therapist, I liken it with my new clients to a dance. At first, it's kind of awkward, right? It's a new dance partner. How are you moving? But after a little while, you figure each other out. You figure out how it's going to work. Yeah. And then it works. And you said you were fortunate enough to work with someone for 5 years. That's fabulous. I have to imagine that was incredibly difficult for you because they know you, you know them. You have that trust. You see someone. I tell my new clients the first 3 sessions are just stick with it. It's going to feel awkward. We got to figure out. It's a feeling out process. The other thing I want to tell, and you know this. Sometimes a therapist just isn't the right person for you. That's okay. It's okay to say, I'm sorry, but you're not the right person. I know as a therapist, my feelings are not hurt. I get that. I don't want to see someone if I'm not the right person to help them, if my style isn't what they need.
Yeah. It's very, like you say, it's very intimate. And when I first started, I was a little bit into, I don't know if you could be a little bit into suicidal ideation, but I was there. But this therapist knew it. I didn't have to say anything to it. Just by working with me every day, because I had to go into the VA after I got out of the domiciliary. She said, I want you out of the house every day, so you will see me every day. And she did that for a month. And it was a tremendous help. But, I talk a little bit about suicidal ideation in my book, because I brought it up in a group one day. I go to a group where we have horses, equestrian therapy. I love it. Where we take care of the horses, rub them down, get to know about them, know their name, where they came from. They're all retired, either for the police department or the army or somewhere. They're retired, and they're there for us. And they have a beautiful landscape out there. But I brought up suicidal ideation one day, and it shocked everybody that I would even say the word. But I had to. I've learned to cope. I got coping skills. I went to CPT and all the other programs, and I'll jump on anything that they throw at me. I will. But nobody wants to talk about suicidal ideation, but we have to. We have to. It's real. It might be passive, but it's real. It does exist. I've never married, and I've never had any more kids. And I'm 75. So something went wrong that I could not have good relationships. I just didn't see that for me. No more kids. So it's just me and my 2 dogs. And I bought a house. Made me feel good to go through that hassle of buying a house, because it was a job to buy a house.
It certainly is. Congratulations on that, Naomi.
Thank you. So me and my 2 dogs live here, and we love it. I don't feel like I have to go anywhere. When my social work therapist got me into equine therapy, I hadn't been out. I still order my groceries on Wednesdays. They deliver them. Whatever I need, I order in. So I'm not one to get out, do things. But, in my mind, I still have fun. I still want to travel. I am going to travel. But I don't need to be in groups, crowds. I just don't do that anymore, We all used to go to concerts and do all that stuff. I don't have that feeling anymore.
Well, that's, yeah. And I will say, yes, it's good to get out. It's good to, leave have a change of perspective.
I'm getting better at that. The equestrian visits once a week really helped me quite a bit. But I'm still a little bit at odds with my daughter. I haven't seen her in about 7 years due to my mental health, but I'm prayerful that, and I keep the faith that one day she'll see that I'm okay and feel comfortable with that. I have a granddaughter in Virginia in college. She's doing well. She's going to be a clinical psychologist, which will be great. And I have a grandson that builds things, so I look for him to continue to build things in this world. So
Absolutely.
I'm proud of all of them, and given time, God willing, we'll all get together again at some point in this lifetime.
Absolutely. And mental health is really challenging. As you said, people shocked about talking about suicidal ideation, but it is actually important. And for people who don't know, suicidal ideation, it simply means you're having some thoughts, not necessarily ones that you're going to, of hurting yourself in some way, perhaps ending your life, but you're not necessarily acting upon it, but you're just having thoughts of, maybe I shouldn't be here. I can't go on, stuff like that. Know that there are lots of resources available to you. There's suicide hotlines. There's 811. Available to you. And that's important. Naomi, I'm sure that you will attest that asking for help it's not as hard as you think it is. It is perhaps one of the, those epic first steps. But you might think that it sounds really hard and somehow reflects badly on you, but it doesn't. If you need help, ask for help. There is help available. And yeah, it's important, and it's clearly helped you a lot.
It has. We have a hotline for veterans, and I usually, the only time I feel the need that I have to reach out is holidays. Because I don't see my family and my daughter and the kids, so it's like mostly holidays or special occasions, birthdays or something. But other than that, again, coping skills. When you're in therapy, you learn coping skills, and that's real. You think about if it's something like it was something epic coming up, my therapist would say, well, let's talk about it. Let's plan for it. What you gonna do if this happens, so. Yeah,
absolutely. And I like to say that in therapy, I'm giving people tools so that if you have anxiety, there's actual physical manifestations in your body. You start to feel anxious in perhaps it's your stomach or your chest or up in your throat. And when you notice that, when you have the tools, like anything, tools, coping skills, you're able to recognize and go, oh, but now I know what to do about that.
I know what to do.
That's the same way that if you are, I don't know, there's so many daily things that we do that we've figured out how to do. You being 75 and certainly not growing up in the computer era, you had to learn how to use a computer, and if it froze up, how to do control delete and do a reset.
Yes.
So you're like, oh my God, what do? I froze up. Then you learn how to do it. Well, there's a tool. Oh, I know how to deal with this issue.
Yeah.
I do this. And then if that doesn't work, I do this.
I do this. Yeah. My dogs and I walk a lot. We walkers. It gets too hot right now, but in the evenings, we walk every evening for at least 30 or 40 minutes. That's how I end my day, with a good walk.
And that's really important too. Exercise, people don't realize that. Exercise is awesome. We're just moving our body is awesome. Especially if we have anxiety or depression or both of those. We release endorphins, which are our own body's natural, antidepressant that kind of make us feel good. So exercise can really help if you're having a bad day. Depression is a vicious circle where it makes you really tired, so you sleep more, which makes you more depressed, which makes you sleep more.
That's true.
And to break that cycle, exercise, walking, whatever exercise that gets your heart pumping. You may find that all of a sudden you have broken that cycle, that doesn't have you in this vicious cycle. And it's great. It's really important.
And it's good for you.
It's good for you. Aside from that, it is actually good for you.
And when you're aging, for sure. I tell people,
use it or lose it kind of a thing now.
Drink that water, move that body.
Absolutely. So Naomi, this has been fascinating. How can people get a hold of you if perhaps they're a veteran and want to reach out to you? How can they find you?
Well, you can definitely pick up my book, Amazon, Books A Million, any bookstore. It's available now in paperback, hardback, and audio. If you want to listen to the stories, I think you'll enjoy it. It's not just for veterans, but anybody. Like you say, if you're going through something and you're trying to make that epic first move, that's what we all do. That's why I like your title. I love it. And I will be getting your book too, but because epic, that was a great word for it. And then you can reach me at helpingveteransthrive.com is my website.
Awesome. Well, Naomi, I want to thank you so much for joining me. Truly an epic discussion.
Thank you, Xander. You're an epic person too. I like that.
Thank you so much. And if you're ready to begin your epic journey, go to epicbegins.com. And as always, remember, epic choices lead to the epic life that we want.
Get your gift copy of the award-winning book, Epic Begins with One Step Forward, at epicbegins.com. That's a wrap on this episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward with your host, Xander Sprague, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed public speaker, and licensed professional clinical counselor. To make your next conference or event epic, send an email to Xander at zander@epicbegins.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Remember, epic choices, epic life.